Hi, welcome to my second video. I'm doing a series of videos doing interviews with experts that are within or related to marketing within specific areas. So my last video, if you have a chance to go back and look at it, is on LinkedIn with Steve Ponton. But today I'm talking to Stuart Aitken about design. So Stuart, do you want to introduce yourself?
Thanks, Samantha. Hello, everyone. My name is Stuart Aitken. My business is Aitken Design. We help other businesses with their graphic design needs, printing and their website needs. And Samantha, it's great to call an expert. Thank you very much. You have made my day. So yeah, that's just a little bit about myself. We've been doing this for 5 years. Actually celebrated our 5th birthday in January. And it's been a whirlwind ever since. So yeah, that's a little bit about myself. Thank you for inviting me on, Samantha.
Brilliant, thank you. So just a lot of people don't know really where to start with finding someone to help them with their graphic design. They know they need graphic design, they know they need a logo, brand, whatever it is they need. How would you recommend someone goes about choosing a graphic designer?
Okay, that's a really good question. Great question to start me off. Yeah, graphic design is such a wide field. You have so many different niches, so many different focuses on. You ask one person in graphic design what they think graphic design is, you can get a completely different answer. So it can range from, as you said, branding. So your business branding, what you put out in the world. It can range to your designs you put on social media. Anything really that manipulates pixels is graphic design. So that includes like website design, stuff like that. So my first kind of thing would say, well, what's the purpose of the project you're trying to get done? So is it branding? Is it a social media image? Is it a website design? What is the item you're looking to be actually created? And what field does it fit in? So kind of, if you're looking for someone, look at the focus that matches up with your project. The second thing I would say is kind of look at the person. So I have always thought myself a bit of a slightly different from other graphic designers. So if you stereotypically think of a graphic designer, you think of someone who's very creative, very flamboyant, very, very artsy, very, very out there. Yes, I do have those qualities, but I would say there's more a logic part of my brain that kicks in when I'm putting designs together, that I'm looking at the end user. So how's the end user interacting with this project? So some, I'm going to say, artists can get carried away with the project and get so delved deep down into what they're creating, the brief or whatever, that they totally miss how the end user is going to interact with that element. So I would say kind of look at the personality of the graphic designer and how that marries up again with your project, and how that is going to marry it with you as an individual as well, because obviously you're working with them. So if you can really rein in a very artsy, very flamboyant individual, great, fantastic. Or if you're looking for someone to just be really hands-off, maybe somebody with a bit of a logical part of them, just so it kind of matches all up. But yeah, that's kind of, for actually quite a short question, that was quite a long answer. So I hope that helps to kind of give a bit of, I think, to kind of narrow that down, really say, what is the end project that you want to do, and how is the end user going to interact with that project? And I would say try and match up your graphic designer to those elements is my answer.
So if you're getting if it's web design, you want someone who has experience doing web design specifically, not just print, for example.
Yes, exactly, because it's two different things. It's two different industries. It's two different ways of manipulating colour. It's two different ways of how people read that element. As in a website, you've got the upper third. So on a website, if the key part of your page isn't on the top third and they skim read it, they're going to totally miss the point. So that's kind of within a web page, within a website. There's also the 3-click rule, as in if somebody doesn't, if the information you're trying to put forward isn't within 3 clicks of them hitting your home page, you're going to lose them completely, because they're going to just lose momentum and lose attraction to it. Whereas on print, you've got a slightly different way of kind of working with it. So you've got double-sided, and people read from top left to bottom right. So how does that work with your design logistically? And how is that even held by the individual? You're kind of thinking that even I've seen in the last 5 years, A5 leaflets are kind of moving away from that, A5 size to more A6 size postcard size, because you think about it, your mobile phone is that kind of size. So people are even interacting with printed products differently because of the way you live life. Yeah, exactly. You've got two different avenues. You've got a million different avenues in graphic design. So yeah, that's kind of, yeah. So match up with the expert. That's basically my answer.
Okay, and I don't know if you've got any ideas about what the latest, or what I imagine this doesn't necessarily change over time. There'll be certain fashions, but what you should take into consideration if you're rebranding or you're creating a new brand, how should you go about that when it comes to working with a graphic designer?
Okay, so yeah, another great question. Thank you, Samantha. I feel like really you're putting me through my paces today, so thank you. I think to look at for a graphic designer is, first of all, this is a basic in branding, is your logo as a vector, which basically means that it's created outside of a pixel-based image, so you can create it as big as you want. That's a basic. And going from that, the trend in logos and branding at the minute is, we started a good number of years ago, is flat level design. So instead of going from 3D and being shadows and all that kind of stuff, being very flat, being very two-dimensional, and that fits in very well to the vector way of working. And now that I've said that to you, you can go about, you can look at all the fast food chains, you can look at, shops as you walk by, and you'll see that they are very, very two-dimensional. They may be in a three-dimensional sign, but the actual brand itself is a two-dimensional logo. The majority of them. There's always exceptions. So that's a kind of trend that has been happening. And from there as well, you've now got what's called why is it when you want to say something you forget the name of it? But basically, it's a evolution of a natural evolution of a brand over time. A responsive logo, that's what I was looking for. Responsive logo. So on web pages, you've got a responsive web page that if you're looking at a web page on a desktop and a tablet and a mobile, it responds to whatever device you look at your website at. Basically, you've got logos that do the same thing. Take the Nike logo, for example. Over time, the actual brand itself hasn't really changed, but they've maybe took the Nike, depending how you say it, word out of it, and you've just got a tick, and that's the brand recognition. You got a tick. Same with Adidas. Same with so many brands out there. Same as McDonald's. You literally now just got the icon, and that's a responsive logo. So depending on where they're using it, if it's a small space of logo, it's literally just the icon rather than the logo as a whole with the word, with the actual text in it as well. So it's responding to the needs of that brand within that specific project, if that kind of makes sense.
Okay, so you don't just want the one logo, you want to have icons that come out of that to be used in different circumstances.
Yes, exactly. Maybe not different icons, but an icon that's recognisable with that brand that can be used in different circumstances depending on the message and the purpose that it's being served. Like, for example, on a business card, you don't have a lot of real estate, so you have to be very creative on where you put your brand and how you have it. Whereas on a billboard, depending on the message you put across, you may have the full billboard to literally have your brand name and it's there. Again, social media, depending on where it is, you may not have a lot of space. So again, you have to think through where your kind of branding project will be on social media. will be on Instagram, where it's a square space. And most of the time people look at Instagram on their phone. It's on Facebook, where you have maybe slightly different dimensions, but people can look at it on their tablet, on their computer, on their desktop. So you kind of have to look at where exactly, you can see now that wherever your brand is going to be, it's going to say, even it may say the exact same message, but it has to be used in a slightly different way to use that space that's available to the best of its ability.
Right.
And that's kind of that has come out of the kind of digital era of that narrow phone space. Yes, phones are getting bigger, but that narrow phone space of, right, what we're going to do and what way we're going to do it and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, that's a trend that's happening. Another trend, I'm not going to go into much detail, but I think it's really, really cool. A bit of in there myself, so I think it's really cool, is augmented reality.
Yeah, okay, yeah.
Yep. So everyone's played like Pokemon Go, and where you've got the real world is coming through your phone's camera, but then it's overlaying a digital world on top of that. And that's called augmented reality. It's related to, but it's different from virtual reality. Virtual reality is everything's created by the computer. Augmented reality is there's computer elements on top of real world aspects. So there is now a technology out there, a QR code, just like you have in like business cards, or your digital business card, whatever, things that scan things with. You can put that up on a wall or wherever, and as soon as your camera picks it up, it displays a virtual reality aspect. I mean, I said I wasn't going to go into detail, but actually I am, because I think it's really cool. A virtual reality aspect. So that could be a new product and a new item that you're selling. It could be a brand. It could be anything you want built into this QR code. So if you imagine it, the way technology is going, yes, you won't have your phone in your hand, you probably have your phone in your glasses. Everyone remembers Google Glasses, all that stuff. I think that was built before its time.
Yeah.
That's where you come in, back into it. Apple's going to release something or whatever, right? So you're literally going to be walking down the street, looking at the real world, and you have a virtual world layered on top of it. Imagine walking by a QR code, boom, a brand pops out in front of you. Hey, our new stuff's in place. Yes, it's going to be really annoying, but in a weird, nerdy, technical kind of way, it's actually really cool. And I think that's going to be the next step in brand evolution. Yeah. Again, going from that, where do we use the brand and how we're going to use the brand, into the way I kind of think about it is it Back to the Future 2?
Oh yeah, with the shark.
Yeah, exactly. Jaws, literally right up at okay, it won't be as bad as that, but I think that'll be quite cool. Can you just imagine a fast food chain brand eating you as you walk down the street? The irony. But yeah, that's the kind of evolution of, I think, where brands will go in the future and how they're going to be used. I haven't quite figured out exactly what that would mean for the brand design. I don't think anyone will ever until it hits us.
Yeah. It's difficult to future-proof with technology marching on.
I think it's a hunch, and I know it's an actual video that will be on the internet everywhere, and everyone's going to hold me to it. I think brands will start to go back to almost 3 dimensions, almost the 90s idea of kind of colour and 3 dimensions, and getting away from that flat level design that I just spoke to in my previous answer. Still, vectors are constantly evolving, so I think it will still involve vectors, because that's the only way to really create a brand and have it to a size that anyone really needs it. But I think it will kind of merge into that 3D, especially if you've got it in an augmented reality world where people can interact with it. So you might not have your brand literally there. You may be able to turn it and have something else there, something else there, something else there, something on the top, something on the bottom. It's then going to become a very, very 3-dimensional image.
Yeah, people are already doing that with products and things at trade shows. Back when we were allowed at trade shows, hopefully before too long we will be again. So I've seen it in that environment. So yeah, I can see that being taken a step further.
And if you imagine it, it might not even be on street corners, you know, the QR codes or whatever. It might be on clothing, you know, like, you know, we got have like a wee Nike badge or whatever. That it might be a QR code. So when you walk by someone, they might have a billboard. The billboard's them. I mean, like they're walking down. You know, it's not. You know, when you start to think of it like that, you're then getting into, you know, things start like snowballing down, and it just gets absolutely crazy. A coffee cup, walking in the street, and you could have a coffee cup from a local coffee shop or a well-known coffee brand, you know, displaying their roast for that week or what. You know, I mean, that's absolutely crazy what that could then entail. So yeah, can you tell me a bit excited about it?
And colour as well. That's something that you need to think about to a certain extent as well, don't you? It sometimes, and within different cultures, different colours communicate different things as well. If you're looking to become international at some point.
Oh, 100%, 100%. I was trying to stay away from the colour topic.
Sorry.
That's fine. It's fine. So graphic design, you have in your screens, in your phone, computers, everything, you basically have 3 dots in every pixel, red, green, blue, and they make up every colour you see on your screen. And it's backlit, it's really, really bright. So yeah, you've got your colours that mean different things. So you've got your reds, you know, in our culture means youth and, you know, energetic. You can tell I wore red today because I'm very young, you know, exactly. Whereas in Chinese culture, it's good luck, I think, if I remember my international colours correctly. You know, it can mean completely different things. You know, green here is about healthy, is about, you know, natural, you know, you can literally think of a colour and you go, yeah, I know what that means. You know, you don't really need to think too much about it. But then, yeah, you're absolutely right. If you go to China, you go to Mexico, you go to France, it can mean slightly different things. You do have to be very careful. I did a series on Facebook once about design fails, and it's really, really interesting, some of the design fails that people have come up with branding. Most of them are actually quite crude because that's really the only way people can think into it. But I think it's hilarious because one, I just talking about, it was a Chinese-based company, so they wanted to look very Asian, so they had a tower with like the Asian style roofs, all that kind of stuff, and they had 2 circles run about it, just to do with the brand. But then it looked like something completely different, which you would not be allowed to put on anything at all. So yeah, it was yeah. Obviously, that's a very, very upfront, blunt kind of way of a design feel, but yeah, it could be very subtle, as you said, in the colours. But yes, as I was saying, in colours in graphic design on your screen is actually completely different as colours in your printing.
Yeah.
And that was why I was trying to avoid the subject altogether, because
sorry.
No, it's fine, because the actual spectrum of colours on your screen is huge. It's massive. And as you add those colours together, you get lighter and lighter colours. And you ultimately get white. That's where we get our colours from. In printing, your spectrum is actually a lot smaller. So the colours are around the edge of the RGB spectrum. You cannot reproduce in printing because we use some places use four process printing. Some use 6, some use 8. But 4 process printing is the kind of industry standard. So you've got CMYK is cyan, yellow, magenta, black, and that's your key, K for key. And as you add those colours together, you get darker and darker colours. So you can't get any lighter than those base colours of cyan, magenta, and yellow. So anything brighter than that, so take a neon colour, for example, very, very difficult to recreate that in printing at a value level. Yes, you can at a very, very premium level, but a value level where most businesses want to work in themselves, don't want to be spending millions on printing, it's very, very difficult to replicate that. So in a brand, you don't want to start putting in all these bright colours, all this, blues and oranges are very, very difficult to replicate in printing. You don't want to put a name in unless you really, really have to. And it's a very, very difficult minefield to try and navigate, because you're absolutely right. you've got your culture says one thing that you want to put your message across, another culture says another thing that you don't want to be putting across. You don't want to be using this colour, you don't want to be using that colour, you don't want to be doing that, you know, because in printing it'll be dull or it won't look right. Massive huge minefield is colour.
Yeah.
Yeah, most people go, oh, colour, I can have a red, can have a green, all day. You're like, yeah. Mm-hmm.
And that's another reason why you want to use someone you know is an experienced graphic designer who knows how things will look on print and screen, and yeah, not just someone you found on Fiverr, who could be anyone.
Yes. Yep. You might get lucky, you might get away with it.
Mm-hmm.
Or is that the risk that anyone wants to take in their business going forward for the next, 2 to 3 years? I mean, I would always recommend you rebrand every 3-4 years. You could say I'm biased. You could say I'm trying to create work for myself. My kind of reasoning for that is you always want to keep your brand fresh. Mm-hmm. It might not be a huge, massive, complete change in everything, but even, as I said before, that evolution of the brand, just tweak it slightly. Just, you can maybe change an icon, or you could keep the icon, change the font, change the way the letters look. Go from 2-dimensional, go from 3-dimensional down to 2-dimensional, whatever. I would have a look at the evolution of brands like Nickelodeon, eBay, Google. Yeah. Over the space of the 1990s to the 2000s into 2010s, their brands evolved into being very creative, very out there, very splashes, paint splashes, this or that, into more, I would say, adult-like.
Yeah, and I think it's important that it's evolution, as you say, so that you don't want to lose any brand equity that you've built up by completely changing everything. And some brands have made that error.
Yes,
but it's just making sure it's fresh, as you say.
Yeah,
up to date.
I mean, what I would recommend if anyone is ever thinking of changing a brand is get customer feedback. Do just a quick survey. Doesn't need to be anything huge or massive. Just a quick survey of what do you think of when you think of us. Have you seen a logo about it? What do you think of it? Just something simple, and that even gives a graphic designer a million things to go forward with. To kind of say, well, the purple moon is recognizable here. Great, let's keep this. But the blue chicken isn't, so let's get rid of that. I know it's completely random. And please, nobody use purple moons and blue chickens on the logos, because I don't think it would go anywhere. But that's just kind of my little bit of feedback. Before you go anywhere near a graphic designer, I would just say get a bit of customer feedback, because it might be you look at it and you go, I'm a bit tired of seeing that logo, but remember, you see it day in, day out, 4 times, like years, you're like, I'm sick and tired of that logo. But actually, for some people, it might still be quite fresh, still quite relevant. You're absolutely right. Brand loyalty, brand equity, you don't want to get rid of that overnight, because then you're basically starting from square one again.
Yeah, absolutely. And another thing people don't always think out, especially if they're quite small and they're just starting out, things like the font and being consistent with the colours. Do you think that's really important in terms of consistency and just making sure that customers subconsciously can look at, even if it's just a letter or an invoice, they immediately know who it is before they've even read anything? Yeah,
100%. I mean, I could just say yes, and that would be the answer to it. Big companies now. I've worked for some, not in a graphic design role, but in my previous roles, I have worked for big conglomerates and big charities, third sector, all of which have brand guidelines. And they have them for a reason, and that's to keep a brand, no matter where they're being used, similar over all their different streams. So whether that's social media, whether that's in print, whether that's on a screen, whether that's a text message, whatever, it keeps that consistent. And as we talked about before, that brand loyalty, see it, and it keeps things professional as well. The amount of posts I've seen from small businesses that are trying their best, absolutely trying their best, that they've had their logo done, but then they've they've put their own little bit down the bottom that says something. It's a completely different font, and you can tell it looks different. Or they've screenshotted the logo from the email they got from the graphic designer and put that at the top of a post, and then they put their own little message down the bottom. You can tell. And I think most people could even tell subconsciously, and they go, I don't know. It just sends the wrong message, in my opinion. I could be completely wrong, but sends the wrong message, that people, that they don't want to take time to just get even the basics right. So my thinking is, if a big, huge, massive conglomerate and a charity and other things like that have a brand guideline, I think even the 1 person, the 2 person business still needs to have brand guidelines. They still need to go, right, okay, how do we use our logo? Where do we, like, in social media, how should we put it? And how do we use this file, and how do we use that file? And if a client got a logo done by myself, and they came to me and said, look, Stuart, we just want to put this online. If it's a 5-minute job, I'm going to do it for them. If they ask, just go put it together and send it back off them. It's 5 minutes out of my time. It's not a bother. It's not an issue. It means that they get the right look out onto wherever they're putting it, and it helps them. I would much rather help a small business survive and journey with them through that progress than continually find new clients. So I want to help support my current clients. I think that's what I'm trying to say. That made it sound like a really selfish way of saying it. I didn't mean it like that, but yeah, to answer your question, yes, I think 100% brand consistency over everything is key. Because if you start using one font on say Facebook, another font on Instagram, and your printed stuff as another thing, it's not going to look good. I can tell you that. I'm working in the industry for 5 years, having people email me their previous stuff before, hey, can you update this? Hey, what's this going on? And then trying to update it, keeping it on brand. Yeah, I would 100% say, the big companies are onto something. That's why they do it. So why don't the small companies do it?
Yeah. Yes, it's something to do. Even it's very simple brand guidelines, always use this font.
Yes. Yeah.
These 2 or 3 colours.
Yes. Yeah. Exactly. And it just makes a world of difference, because see, you've got like a grey in your brand somewhere, like a nice kind of silvery grey, but you put the text at the bottom in black. It's just going to look slightly off. Whereas if you just put that text in that same grey, a million times better.
Yeah.
Whenever I do a logo, I always attach the font files that I've used, and if a client asks for it, I do produce brand guidelines. And as you said, it's a simple document. It's literally like, here's your logo, make sure there's enough space, make sure you use this file because there's no background on it, or it's a transparent background if you want to be technical, so that it fits into any project. So here's an inverse one so it can fit on darker backgrounds, all that kind of stuff. It just makes your brand look a million times better, because you've paid an expert to create that stuff for you. So why not use it to the best of its ability?
Yeah. And we've spoken a little bit about print. I think people forget about design and print to a certain extent these days. That I keep hearing print is dead. There are certain things that are not print-wise that aren't selling as well as they used to, magazines and newspapers, etc. However, certainly within marketing, it's still extremely useful, especially as people are so used to receiving emails. If they receive something in the post, it's just unusual now.
100%. I mean, I would, first of all, to answer this question, I would say print is not dead. Yes, there's been a tendency in the market for the last 10 years for printed material to reduce in its popularity. I'm not meaning that down to zero, I'm just meaning a little bit of a reduction. Yeah. So I've been in the industry for 5 years, and a bit before that as well, where I was kind of training up. And I have noticed that over those years, print has gone down. Has COVID just accelerated that? I don't think so. I just think it's people just kind of seeing, going, oh, where is everything? I think it's going to come back up. See, when networking events come back in, face-to-face meetings, all that kind of stuff, there will be a resurgence. Talking about getting things in the post, we are actually, within Aitken Design, we're going to start a kind of quarterly newspaper, not like a newspaper as in the news, but like stuff about us. So we have, like, special offers. We have, you know, a bit about, you know, a director's editorial. I get to write stuff and publish it. How amazing is that? Bit about staff, new stuff coming up, like the augmented reality, what's happening in websites, all that kind of stuff. Quarterly, so it'll be 4 issues a year. You know, it's not going to be anything amazing, but it's going out to our clients to kind of help them see what's kind of going on, to make a value decision in what they need in the future. And we're putting it in our newspaper because that is different. That is the new radical way of putting things out there. Everybody does an email newsletter.
Yeah.
Everybody puts stuff out there. I know at the beginning of my day, I look at the email newsletter that came in over the night, and I go, oh, archive, read what's in it, archive. And it goes away, never action. Unless it's got special code on it, or it's something I'm really interested in, it's not staying in my inbox. I mean, that's 2 tips for people if you are doing email newsletters. So yeah, print is not dead. The global pandemic, you know, we've now got floor stickers, we've got window stickers, you know, we've got keep your space. You've got your hand sanitizing stations. You've got leaflets to give out. Getting a bit technical, I know it's going back a good couple of months, but there's actually a lot of things out there saying that any virus can't stay on published paper material for a prolonged period of time. So it is actually safe to get your post in through the mail, to pick up a leaflet. It's safe. It's safer than, you know, touching things in a supermarket and all that kind of stuff, which people
yeah.
So, and if we start to go down that rabbit hole anyway, you then start to bring in fear into people's lives, and that's not what I'm not in business to bring fear into people's lives. I'm in business to promote other people's business, and that's what marketing is all about. And
absolutely, yeah.
And I believe that should be done in a positive manner rather than in a negative manner. So I believe the world will get back to a sense of normality at some point, and we will be moving on with our lives, like all other levels of society. It evolves. It won't be what it was before, but it will be a sense of normality when we get to it, and what it looks like. And I believe print will have a part to play in that society. So yes, you're right. Business cards aren't as popular. Actually, people are buying business cards. I think it's like, I've been doing this since we've started business, is that after every single new client that's came on board with us, they've had a little pack with a business card in it, you know, with a leaflet, with a flyer, just a little bit of information about us and how we can help them in the future.
Yeah, I mean, I know it's old fashioned. I have everyone on a CRM, but I've still got my business all the business cards. I find if I've had something physical and I've seen it's something more tangible than, say, a LinkedIn connection. I mean, you want to do both.
Oh,
I remember people based on the business card. I know where I met them. I know what we spoke about, because you've had that tangible thing that sort of helps your memory.
100%. I think there's a place in the world for a blend of the two.
Yeah.
Yes, the digital world, and we can't ignore that. Yes, the print world, we can't ignore that. And that's what we said from day one. That's why we help design websites as well as design stuff for print, because we believe in the blended approach of the two. So print's not dead and websites don't rule the world. There's a blend for both. You're absolutely right. You've got that tangible, you've got that old, I was going to say traditional, that makes it sound like it's outdated. I don't mean it that way, but you've got that way of it's done, and it's been done like that for a long time for a reason, because you've got your tangible business card in your hand. You've got your book of cards, and actually I have a very similar folder of business cards. So I like your folder, Samantha. And I think that helps you connect with people online, doing your email marketing, getting suppliers, getting clients. All of that helps. It's just another tool in the toolbox. It is not the complete toolbox. So yeah, we believe in a blend of the two, and it works. I'm part of a networking group. I'm not going to name it. And every time this individual is on, the first part of their pitch is, Who needs business cards? They're dead. They have their bundle of business cards and they throw them over their shoulder. That's their pitch. I don't believe that at all. Because you're absolutely right. They're selling a CRM system, an online system that helps people, digitally connect. And as I said, I think the blend is the best. Using the two of them together for the best of your business, I think is the best way of doing it. So, that was a long-winded way of saying, yes, print's not dead, and using it together as part of a wider strategy is the best way of thinking about it. And being that radical way of doing it works.
Because people aren't used to, I mean, we still get the junk mail that's not addressed to anyone in particular through our letterboxes, but it's nice to get something that's not like a bank statement or a bill addressed to you. Somehow it's more exciting these days. Whereas, how many emails do you get a day?
Yeah, if you think about it, like, I remember when I was a kid, when the letters came through a letterbox, I would always rush the letterbox and go, nah, from my dad, from my mum, from my dad, from my mum. If I don't get anything today, like, oh, the time will come when you'll get a letter and you won't like it. You're absolutely right. We get bills into the door and I go, no. But when it's a Christmas card, when it's a birthday card, when it's a postcard, when it's something that, I mean, I got your Christmas card through our letterbox before Christmas. Thank you very much, Samantha. And it was a really, really nice gesture. Actually, we only got three Christmas cards in the post, 3 from businesses. Yourself was one of them. And those 3 businesses are the businesses actually we connect with the most. I mean, I see you, Samantha, at least once a week on some networking events. We've done work in the past. Very, very similar to the other 2 businesses that sent us business cards. And it's a way of, absolutely, it's a way of personally connecting with someone. I read something when I was a kid, and it was in school. It was a journal about writing. Right? I hated writing at school, but it was a journal about it. It was really interesting. The person proposed that writing is actually time traveling. Right? You're looking really confused here, but think about it. When you write something down, you're actually telling the future self of that person you're writing to the message you thought of in the past.
Yeah, okay, yeah.
And since I thought about that, it's actually quite exciting. You are spending time, valued time, like, think of your hourly rate, right? I don't want to say it out loud, just think of it. And you spend 10 minutes writing a card. How valued is that? Because if you do a mass email out to thousands of people, it might take you 10 minutes, but it's less time, it's less value per person. And people, whether they consciously or subconsciously realize that, people know that. We hand wrote all of our Christmas cards out to our clients this year. And we did that purposefully.
Yeah.
It's value, it's time, and people, whether you're selling to the public, whether you're selling to other businesses, whether whatever service you're providing, whatever product, that speaks volume. If you spend your time with your client, that speaks volumes. Yeah.
Yeah, especially if you could put a relevant message in there, handwritten, that's specific to their client, and it makes them feel cared for.
Yep. And exactly, and that is only achievable by print, basically, because you're creating that product that people can put their own message on, that then they can then put to their perfect client.
Yeah.
So yeah. So, answer your question, print is not dead, and that's the reason why.
Brilliant. Okay, and any other things that you feel people should think about in terms of graphic design?
I think it's just really to keep it simple, basically. I've seen designs where things are going crazy, and you're like, what on earth is going on here? The big thing to keep in mind is, and I've said this in this interview, is who is your end user? Who's your client that's looking at this, that's dealing with this, that's handling this, that's whatever the project is, who is your end user? If you have got a message that suits them, perfect, grand, you're on to a winner. And keep it simple. that's kind of my two things for graphic design. It's the same with, I suppose the two basic rules of marketing really is keep it simple and keep it clean and keep your end user in focus. You know, we've all been there. We've all tried to get a message out there. We've either put the message too complicated or got the wrong client in mind, and we've got it's failed. It's failed. Our business is useless. No, it's failed. It's failed. It's not. It's just shifting slightly. As soon as you hit that perfect client, as I call them, you're on to winner.
Yeah.
I remember. I remember. I think it must have been a year into business. This is the big question that all businesses in our sector kind of deal with: is how do you advertise a marketing business, right? So, you know, whether as we say, like it or not, I don't mean it like that, but you know, I'm in marketing advertising. I create things that help people sell things, basically. How do you advertise us? So I'm trying to think it all through, and obviously we're B2B, we're business to business, and so I created this kind of special offer for businesses. And it was the most complicated special offer I think any business has ever thought of. It was like, right, it had to be on a Monday between this time and this time. It's like 25% off, but it's a 7-day turnaround time because it's on a Monday, and it's a special offer only for a Monday, but it's only a certain product on certain Mondays at certain times. I'm like, what? No one ever took me up on that in the 6 months we were running it, and that stopped quite abruptly, and no one even knew because it was too complex and it had the wrong message to the wrong person. So.
And hence my tagline, making your complex simple. It's so important in marketing communications, especially with the industries I work with that are a bit more technical. It's, you want to get as simple as a message as possible to that client, to that customer, to grab their attention.
Yes. And then you start finding them slightly more kind of complicated things you're adding to the foundation you've built.
Yeah.
The way I kind of think of it is like a pyramid. You don't start at the top, you know, build the top at the bottom and go up to, no, you start at the foundation, you build your way up like that. Yeah. And then you have a solid base for every client.
Absolutely. Brilliant. Well, thank you so much for that.
No problem at all.
I'm sure a lot of people find this video very interesting. It's a lot of great nuggets in there.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Always try. We ran a couple of years ago. We ran a little Facebook kind of video thing before with like little design tips and all that kind of stuff. People find it really interesting. So if anyone's got any questions for myself, or they want to agree or even disagree, people, please, if you feel that you disagree with anything I've said, please, and we can have a reasonable adult conversation over it. I know that's a very dangerous thing to say on social media, but I quite like to discuss things with people, individuals that even have a different opinion, because everybody's different. Everybody's got different thought and things. These are just my thoughts. These are just my experiences that I've had. And whether I'm in the minority or the majority, I'm happy with it.
Brilliant. Well, I shall be putting Stuart's details wherever I share this, on social media and on my website where I'll be hosting it. But is there anything in particular you want to plug, Stuart?
Not overly. I'm not one for trying to make a sale conversation out of nothing. I think I just maybe want to plug the sector in general.
Yeah.
We've raised Fiverr before. There's other places online that do a very similar thing, that try and devalue people's skill set, whether that's in advertising or whatever. And these are people's livelihoods, and you know, it's my livelihood, you know, that is at risk as well as everybody else's. And there's a big thing that's going around at the minute, is obviously support local. Obviously, due to everything that's going on, people feel that the big, massive global conglomerates are doing well out of this. Some are, some aren't. Some of the fast food chains are. So the big thing about saying support local. So I just want to put a big shout out there to obviously say, please support local, not just in my sector, but in other sectors as well. And please support people, because yes, you know, every employer's been affected, but people that run their own business have been more affected than others.
Yeah.
Stress that some businesses have had to be under to keep themselves afloat is unreal. So yeah, it might cost you 20 quid more, 30 quid more, but please don't go into places like Fiverr or any other thing that does that. Please support UK jobs and please support local.
And it might be 30 quid more now, but it'll save you hundreds of pounds in the long run, I think.
Oh, 100%. My clients have came to me and they went, I'm a local for 6 months, got it off Fiverr. Yeah.
So yeah, yes, people, please get, I say this with everything, please get professionals involved. If you've got the budget, do it, because it's worth it.
Yeah, 100%.
Right, brilliant. Thank you very much, Stuart. And thank you everyone for viewing.
Yes, thank you.